So about Overwatch 2. And we'll be like, look, we'll start the YouTube video here. Everyone be happy about it. So, first things first about Overwatch 2. Calm the fuck down. Overwatch 2 is not supposed to be released this year. So any issues with balance or anything else in general, don't fucking worry about it. 2. Overwatch 2 is a new release. People are like, it's too much change. There's too much going on. This is when I always say, I'll just say this. There has never been a major patch in Overwatch 1. At least with balance. Maybe 1 or 2. At least what I consider a major patch. Now, what do I consider a major patch? Something like Dota. Every hero gets changed. Abilities are changed by 20 to 30%. New abilities are added. Old abilities taken away. Crazy shit, right? That's what I expect every 3 to 4 months. So for this to happen, I consider this almost like patch-worthy, but I understand where they're coming from, where they're leveraging the fact that it's a completely new game. They're going in a bit of a different direction, and they need this mechanic, which is a whole new game, to say, guys, we know we went this way with Overwatch 1, but, like, it's not working out. We have to go this way. So if you take... Well, that's kind of the end of that point. It's a new game going in a different direction. If you don't like it, so be it. Sorry. This is like in Warcraft 3, and I quote this a lot, when they went from Reign of Chaos to Frozen Throne, Blizzard did this really big patch, or they did an expansion, and the reason why I like this is they redid all of the damage systems, which means every single unit in the game had to be rebalanced because of the new armor and how it interacted with all other armor types and damage types. This is that same exact thing. They're redoing a lot. It has to be a new game, not just a patch. Even though I want it to be a patch. So, thirdly, what we saw today was more about the maps and general overall design. Like, we're talking high level, 30,000 foot level type stuff. And not like the nitty gritty, here are things that are going to work. And this is the problem. Everyone's like, the devil's in the details. And you're like, look, don't worry about the details right now. We're doing very broad strokes. Like, we're like, look, we're going 5v5. These are the reasons. These are the fundamental reasons why we're going to 5v5 and why we want to do it. Any other issues that pop up, we can deal with them. And I believe, I'll just call him Jeff. Do you pronounce his name Joff? Or Geoff? I don't know what the fuck to call it. Jeff said it. He goes, look, as developers, you have to understand you're going to figure out the small stuff. And we just got to do big things. Jeff? Okay. So, why do I think 5v5 is the correct direction for it? So, and to my last point, if your expectations of what you saw today were anything different than, oh, this is cool, this is what's going to happen in a year, take your ideas, toss them. Just toss them. If it's about how any hero interacts with other heroes, toss that fucking idea out. Today was a demonstration of what are we going to do with shields? What's the concept with tanks? Like, it's purely conceptual right now. So don't take anything that happened today because, one, of the degree of skill of the players. We didn't get to see, certain things. And also, they weren't, like, trying to work together. Like, it was literally the dev team playing and fucking around. That's it. And to give them credit where credit is due, that's probably diamond and below games what we saw today. So if you're thinking that wasn't a realistic expectation, no. What you saw today was like 65 to 70% of Overwatch being played. Because I think at Diamond, isn't Diamond, I know GM is 1%. Or is it top 500's 1%? GM's like 2%, Masters is 3%. Like, it's essentially a majority of Overwatch. Games are going to look like that. Diamond was top 10%. Diamond is top 10%? Okay, so Diamond below, so 80% of Overwatch looks like that. And that's what they're really concerned about. And if you want to talk about, is Overwatch designed to be a competitive game or a casual game, there's a separate conversation, but the answer is it's designed to be a casual game. And I can lecture you for a couple hours on that. But not here. You can read my blog post. You can watch my conversation with SVB. I posted it on my YouTube, and I have I have tons of discussion on YouTube and on my blog post about all of this stuff. In fact, I've been writing and talking about this for 3 or 4 years, and they basically make the changes to the game for reasons I stated along the whole time. So, my reasons on why 5v5 is so much better for Overwatch. 1. People don't take this as serious as they should. The reason why Overwatch is kind of a poor game and why not a lot of people play it, queue times. I could probably play Apex Legends. I could queue up, find a game, lose a game, queue up again, play another game, maybe a third game by the time I find queue times without priority pass in Overwatch. If you look at Overwatch on Twitch, half the time people are playing other games on top of it. If your game is all about accessibility, which Overwatch is, but no one can play it, the fuck's the point of accessibility? What's the point of the entire game if no one can play it? That is the biggest thing. Fuck pro play, fuck GMs, masters, fuck everything. If people can't play your game doesn't matter. So, making the queue times, first of all, instead of 12 people, you need 10 people. Already, you're going to get like a 25% increase in queue speed. Secondly, because only one tank is needed, you're going to drop queue time by probably 90%. I'm going to guess games right now, if Overwatch 2, let's say it was balanced properly and it was 5v5 with one tank, I think most games would take a minute to find without priority pass. I don't even think priority pass would be an issue or a thing if you could do it. Paradoxagon, okay, he says, so balanced tanks. Let's hit this point now. Let's get it out of the way. In Overwatch, tanks are overpowered mostly, and you cannot change any one part of them without breaking the entire part. From a design point of view, what do you take away from tanks? Tanks have to have health. That seems to be fine. Everyone's okay with the tank's health, right? They gotta have damage mitigation. So shields or, like, absorb stuff. Basically some type of damage mitigation. Now, because it's one tank or two tanks, let's go Overwatch 1 style, with two tanks. A tank has to be able to defend themselves against 6 heroes, because 6 heroes in Overwatch deal damage. So if you make the tank have too little shield, it just gets blown up. But if you give them too much shield, well, now when it's a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-1, a tank can just shield and defend against that one person for a very long time. It kind of makes it unfun for both parties. One, the tank just has to sit there and hold the button to keep the shield up. The other guy has to shoot the shield. Again, not very fun. So shields have to be strong. They can't be weak. They're designed to shield against the team. Okay, well then, if we can't deal with damage mitigation, do we deal with damage? Do we just make tanks weaker? Well, no, you can't. Tanks have to have a threat. If we look at MOBAs and other games, what tanks do is, while they have low damage, what they offer is control and just like space creation. Now in Overwatch, we don't want to have control, right? We don't want to have a lot of stuns and slows and shit like that, or weird like auras and stuff like that. So what is damage mitigate, or what is the threat that tanks provide? Well, it's an FPS. Everyone does damage, right? Or like Hog, I mean, he still does damage, but he has a stun. Overall, it's constant damage and this fear of damage that really stops you from just walking in a tank's face. Because if all the tanks did less damage, I wouldn't give two shits about their shield. I would run through the shield and I'd kill them. They couldn't really defend themselves against any type of DPS hero. So, alright, we can't change their health. We can't change their damage mitigations or shields. We can't change their damage. The only thing that is left to balance with tanks, and is what is they're permanently balanced with now, is range. So it's like, what do we do? What do you take away from tanks to balance them? There's nothing. There is literally nothing you can take away from the tanks that really makes it fun. If you make them too strong of a shield with low damage, then everyone just holds the shield button and it fucking sucks. Don't give them enough shield, well then they can't defend against an entire team's worth of damage. I I've wrote about it, I've read about it, and I talk ability, and I talk to a lot of people, and no one knows the answer on how to balance tanks. What they do is they just go, balance tanks, and they just think that, like, solves the problem. I've never heard an argument how to balance tanks. I mean, not afraid of the possibility of only having one diva and no other tank on your team. Yeah, that's fine. So, if there's no way to balance tanks, what do we do? Like, an overall direction of Overwatch. Do we just say, fuck it, like, shields go down, damage goes up? Like, what do you want to do? And that's kind of where, if you start looking at Overwatch as a whole, you start realizing the issue with Overwatch, at the fundamental level, is that all heroes do damage. Supports do damage, tanks do damage, DPS players do damage. And really, the damage between tank and DPS and support, it's not that big. If you look at some MOBAs, we're talking like DPS heroes in MOBAs deal like 10, 20 times the damage of some supports. Depending on like what carry and what support, like it's massively different, right? We have nothing like that in Overwatch. I think the lowest DPS in Overwatch is Moira at 50. And the highest DPS is Bastion at I think like 400. And then after Bastion, it just drops down to like 300. There's nothing even comparable to MOBAs on that type of damage. And then once you go away from Moira, like it goes up from there. So everyone deals damage, and this is when like tanks get melted too fast. It's DPS's problem. It's hit scan fault. Blah 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 blah. The average damage of Overwatch and their heroes is 100. You have 6 heroes. That means at any point in time, there's 600 DPS going out. So the fact that Hammond or Reinhardt or anyone else gets obliterated in a second, that has nothing to do with DPS. It just has to deal with everyone, and by DPS I mean the DPS hero. It has to deal with just the overall damage that we get in Overwatch is insane. And this is why shields have to be so strong. And why we're kind of stuck in this middle ground where we're like, well, if shield goes down, they just get destroyed. Shields go up, it kind of feels lame to just shoot a shield. You move it to one tank. All of a sudden, it's one shield. That can be balanced. We can figure out how to make one shield good against a team and still be balanced. We can make their damage a little bit higher. We can give them more mobility. Like, we can make some big changes with tanks. And, like, if you want McCree to still be able to stun people, and you're like, well, he has to stun people. We can't lower stun. Let's just say this is an example. But we don't want tanks to be stunned. Well, that's why they have that metric, right? Right now, tanks take reduced knockback. I mean, you can say all tanks don't get stunned, right? You can really balance it. Because if there's 2 heroes that can't get slowed or stunned, and they're running at your face with Lucio speed, hard to balance. Really hard. Really difficult to deal with that shit. As compared to just one guy. So they can make a lot more changes to the tank role because there's only one. They can really balance them properly. And what we saw today was not balanced tanks. So everyone's saying, but tanks sucked in the preview. Yeah, they didn't balance them. They just kind of showed you some generic things that they were working with. And they're like, yeah, we're going in this direction. Don't take it for anything more, anything less. Like, people are taking what they saw today as the gospel. And they're like, this is the game. This is how it's going to be played. No. No. And if nothing else, it gets rid of that stupid-ass Civil War shit where teams just sit behind their shields and shoot. Oh, man, really stagnant, fun game, right? Like, it really does suck. You see it a lot in 2CP choke points. You see it a lot in actually, like, most difficult corners to take or any kind of choke point. You get this standoff. And while I know people got used to that in Overwatch, and that's what they feel comfortable with, as a game, I think it's really shitty. I don't like that game at all. So I'm glad they're making a change for that, and they're going in a different direction. The other things with tanks and in 5v5, you said nobody has balance for 2-2-2, so what can you do to balance by 1-2-2? Can you give examples of something you can do with 1-2-2? What examples of what you can do with tanks? I mean, look at Winston. He has a fucking ranged attack now. He can actually, like, poke. Other tanks can get more damage off, right? We can boost the damage, or you can even boost the damage mitigation of them, right? You can make their shield stronger. I think there's a lot you can do with tanks now. You can just make them more unique, and you don't have to worry about strong tanks doubling up Because, like, what if you do run 2 tanks? Or 2 main tanks in that way? Well, that kind of sucks for... Personally, I think it sucks for both teams. I think playing main tank constantly and just having a shield up isn't really fun, and I think for the other team, just shooting shields isn't really fun either. So it kind of gets rid of that abuse. And I know there's a lot of people who say, I really like finding synergy between 2 tanks. And I'm like, I understand that. But for the best of Overwatch as a whole, not you as a player, we have to go with 1 tank to stop these abuses. What's the difference between a brawler and a tank? Don't worry about the difference on that. It's conceptual. Of brawler just means they're going to be trading damage a little bit more, but since they're tankier, and I guess I shouldn't even use the tankier word, brawlers usually have higher hit points, low but consistent damage, and sometimes life regen. Some type of mechanic to keep them in the fight longer than the other classes, usually. But the idea when they say, "Oh, tanks are now brawlers," I think the main message is to just say, "Hey, tanks don't just sit there and block damage." That's really what it is. Don't think of it anything more than that. Because so many people are used to a tank saying, a tank is I go forward and I stop. And I shield and I block everything here. They want to stop that concept. Stop thinking trench lines and people just standing there and firing at each other. That's boring. Think of it as more fluid, more dynamic. There's going to be more mobility. There's going to be hitting here, going here, kind of things like that. That would be my take on what they mean by brawler. I wouldn't take the concept of brawler from other genres and force it into Overwatch. I think you're selling yourself short, and you're trying to force a design just to meet industry standard when it may not meet the standard of your game, and brawler just means something different. Just think, brawler, okay, a more active tank, less shield but more damage. That's it. So with 5v5, there's going to be a lot more impact player by player. And that is something... This, I think, is where everyone gets the big contention point of concept. This is where everyone gets angry and really gets bitter about it. Do you think Overwatch, and Overwatch 2, should be more about individual performance or team performance? And now, there is a little slider. Don't think of it as yes or no. It's more like all about team play, all about solo play. Right now, it's like 65-70% towards team play. And what Blizzard's doing is they're just taking this and they're just yanking it back probably like the 50%. I think that's a good change. Other people, they may not like that. And I think that's really where point of views conflict. I'm all about heroes, and I don't mean tanks or brawlers or supports or anyone, no one in general. I think players, no matter what hero they play, should have more impact. By making it 5v5, players have significant impact now. Like, significant impact. You know when someone did something. If someone won a duel on the flank, fuck, it's a 4v5 and they got the flank. That's a very big advantage. In Overwatch now, if you win the fight on the flank, their 5 heroes are probably just going to crash on your 5 heroes, and then your 5 heroes die, because they got like a brawly type comp, right? The truth is guys, right now, map design doesn't matter too much, and I know everyone's going to yell at me for that, but there's very little reasons to take a flank as a single or even a duo to own like side of the combat, because you can just take all your heroes and shove them down mid and win. This is the entire premise of GOATs. While you're fucking around trying to be tactical, and I actually like this in a game, you're trying to be tactical. You're like, oh, we'll take this, we'll use this high ground, oh, we'll use this to like peek from the corner, and I just take a fucking sledgehammer and I just jam it through everything. And I'm like, well, your one hero's over there fucking around, and your other hero's like kinda fucking around. I'm going to take my 6 and beat your 4 now, and then what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. This is just like game theory. Like, you do this in StarCraft, you do this in everything. And the problem with that is, if there is a flank in a game, now let's say, just it's in my head right now, a McCree takes the top flank on point through Nabani, right? He takes that little room with the health pack and he's above everyone. Right now, McCree can get some damage off, right? He may be able to get a pick, maybe, but it's not like he has a significant advantage from his position. And really, you could just send a diva up there to kind of deal with him and push him away. Or you can send any tank. There's no big reason to take a flank or to dominate a health pack in Overwatch currently. Now with 5v5, there is. Now, if I take a flank... Or sorry, so let me go back. Let me step back just a second. Now, if you do make that flank mean too much, like, oh, McCree's at the high ground, he has higher positioning, he gets to kill all my heroes for free. Alright, that's too overpowered. So it's like, how do we balance how a position is good or how a position is bad? Like, how much should actually out-positioning someone do for you? Should it mean you win all the time? I don't like that. No, I'm personally, I'm more of an execution guy. Positioning can give you some advantage, but it shouldn't dictate you win all the time. And because a flank or positioning doesn't give you the best advantage, you can kind of slam through it with numbers, and that's what GOATS is. It's this strength over technique type thing, which is fine. You should be able to do strength and technique in a game. The problem is in Overwatch, very little technique if we're talking about tactics in that. Just because you can't make a flank matter that much. But again, now in a 5v5, flanks really do matter. Someone can harass from the side, and because you only have one tank, it's not like you can just send a tank to deal with it. The tank's focused on the main party, right? The main area. Maybe the more mobile tanks can, but then your main area can push in. It really does open up the game to a lot more tactics, where I'm like, oh, I'm pushing from 2 or 3 different sides. You don't have the tanks to really just nullify that, because right now tanks are the best heroes in the game. One-on-one in close distance, I think they almost always win. And I know some DPS players can outplay them at the highest levels, but at the same time, a high-level tank can also outplay them. And it just is kind of lame right now when you're like, just sending a tank over there and they just get beat. Right? Or not, the tank doesn't get beat, the DPS gets beat. So it's like, sweet, now with one tank, you actually have to put this strong piece, and it's good that it's stronger, there can only be one of them, in one spot. And then you can put it in another one like this. I think it opens up a lot more to it. So individual impact going to be way high. It's going to be so much more higher. Flanking is going to matter more, and map design is going to matter a lot more because of it as well. You can't just send a tank to deal with a flank, because he has to worry about the main area. And if he ever leaves that main area, then it gives your team an advantage. Pickoffs, just lower numbers. Pickoffs mean a lot more. Also, we may see more one-on-one duels, which I'll say it, I'm biased. I'm a Quake player from 20 years ago. Guys, I just want to fight in an arena one-on-one. That's my thing. If you ever watch me play Junkrat, what do? Fucking find a flank, close an area where I have the advantage, and I fight a one-on-one. That's what I do. So I'm all about that. I'm happy that that's going to be promoted more. It's just, right now it's promoted so little, it doesn't mean anything. And I want there to be that option of fighting on the flank to win the game for my team. I'll answer a question, since you keep talking about tactics, but what about lower ranks where that kind of coordination doesn't happen? That's a huge majority of the community. It's funny is that they'll do it naturally. Don't think of low SR players as bad players. Where low SR players really fuck up, and if you look at Diamond, some of those people have good mechanics. They're just really weak to pressure. And I can tell you, as a martial artist, if you get in someone's fucking face and you start fighting them, they're usually shittier than if they were calm. Just happens. A more aggressive person usually wins. It's the nature of things. And in Overwatch is no different. When people get attacked, like when a Genji dashes in on a 3,000 level player, they're just like, oh shit, what did that? And they kind of panic, and you can take advantage of that panic. But if you're just talking about tactics at lower ranks, what's going to happen is some people are going to flank naturally. And the tank's going to put pressure on the front naturally. And they may not know it. They may not be aiming for it. But as soon as the tank decides to make a choice, either go main or flank, that tactic is now in use. Right? It's very natural how it happens. It has to happen it will happen that way because you only have one tank. Which is great. It's just going to happen. It's how combat works. If you think about combat, it's just two people pushing on each other. And if someone pushes down low, then the other team will naturally push high just because everyone's pushing. One tank really does create an imbalance point, a pivot point, that things can happen. That's why dive works so well, because people can't handle aggression. Yeah, you just jump on them and kill them. No way is Diamond top 10%. It is. They released metrics like 3 years ago where they said, like, if we're talking GM, that's the top 1% of all players. It's a lot more of a difference than you think. Another advantage of 5v5. More space on the map. Some people don't like this. I love this. Holy shit, do I love this. More space means just more things can happen. You'll see more fluid movements. Some people will leave like flanks empty, and now you can flow right through them. If everyone wants to go on the fight, everyone wants to go center, you got quick, easy flanks, bam, get them. Perfect. Because there's more space on the map, there's less people in places that you may or may not sneakily get to, which is really good because Overwatch lacks deception hardcore. And I said this a couple years ago, and I'm so glad they proved my point right. And I said this on SVB's talk, so if anyone's like, you didn't call it, I fucking called it. I was like, guys, did you know there's no deception in Overwatch? There's no flank in Overwatch where you can't see them coming. You will always see someone coming to a flank before they can actually get to you and deal damage. And they actually said that on today's broadcast. And I was like, I knew it. I loved it. Also, supports have more options. This was talked about on stream a lot. With 2 supports and you got 1 tank, it means either A, you can double heal the tank, or B, one guy can heal the tank and another guy can kind of shoot. And it opens up supports to be able to deal more damage, which I'll just say, on the whole, if you took the Overwatch community as one, giving supports the ability to deal damage more often is going to be looked like good upon. People are going to be happier if they can deal more damage as a support because they don't have to heal as much. At the same time, because more of the map is open and more people are flanking, they're going to get health packs. So supports are already going to start healing less and less and less, which means they can damage more and more and more, which is great. Like, that's cool. Like, that's the exciting part of combat. Truth be told, no one really gets off on just holding mouse 1 on their tank that doesn't move as much. Some people might. Everyone has a thing, right? And I can definitely see players that are like, oh, I healed very well that game. But I think when Anon is like, oh man, I sniped that Pharah that my DPS damaged and only had 50 health and wasn't going to finish him, but I finished him. I helped take that point. All supports can now feel like that. Damage is definitely more optional, and it just allows more options for everyone to do, which is good. There need to be more options in Overwatch. Right now, we're really structured where it's like, supports, you sit there and you heal him. Don't do anything fucking else or you're not meta and you're getting banned because I'm going to report you. That's what we have to get away from. We have to get away from this whole hard idea of how things are and how to play the game before you even get in the fucking game. It's ridiculous. So, those are, to me, the main advantages of 5v5 as it is. Now, other thing they kind of talked about was, wouldn't supports be forced to heal the tank more and have to heal more now there's only 1 tank? So, I think I mentioned this before. I'm sorry if I didn't. Tanks, or the average amount of damage in Overwatch is 100. Taking out a hero reduces the damage significantly in the game. By having 1 less hero, I don't care if it's a tank or not a tank, less damage. It's just a lot less damage. That's all I can really say. If you want examples where it's like, look, a D.Va's not shooting your shield the entire fucking time. Right? You're not getting Reinhardt fire strikes every 8 seconds. You're not getting Reinhardt up in your face because they have to have another tank. It's significantly less pressure on your tank. And if their whole team is fighting your tank and you can heal them through it, which you can heal them now, it's just there's less damage. It gives your team time to flank, which again, more about map, more about positioning. And then you can kind of see that like, okay, so now we have to use cover more, or we have to do X, Y, and Z more. It's going to be a lot less, again, in the trenches, Team A shoots Team B, both have their shields up, slam it together, fucking A, that's Overwatch. I hate that Overwatch. It's going to be a lot more fluid. Oh, I step out of a corridor. I block a little bit. My teammates can't get anything. All right, I'll just back in. I'll fight on the flank. We'll rotate on the flank. While we're rotating on the flank, my shield's going to recharge, and we're going to be able to attack from the side now. Cool. More options are available. You'll see a theme here. Now, they also mentioned... Oh yeah, shit. Desert Storm, thank you for that. Less fucking alts. Oh my god. You know the whole thing of tanks cycling? They called it in Overwatch League. They're like, oh yeah, you get cycled. They use an alt. If you don't have your alt, you have an alt disadvantage. Well, they're going to get their alt because of that alt, and then they alt again, and they get more alts, and it's just this fucking cycle. With one tank, tanks have the most AoE-like alts and controlling alts. That's going to be gone. Now, some people don't like that. I am heavily biased. Heavily biased, I won't even hide it. Fuck alts. If everyone lost their alt, I'd fucking love the game. I think ultimates are shit. I really do. I hate them. I really hate them. I understand why they're in the game. They make everyone feel super strong. Everyone has a moment where they can carry the game. And that's really good for player retention, and it's especially good for 90%, GM and down, 90% of the goddamn players in the game. For them to feel that feeling, they're like, do you see it? I was Reaper, and I fucking killed everyone. And I know at a higher level, we're just like, you press Q and you fucking drop. Big whoop. But for those players, that's a thing. Like, that's a really big reason to play the game. I understand that. I get it. Not my cup of tea. Again, I'll just fully disclose I'm biased on that. One other thing they talked during the stream. Mei doesn't freeze people anymore. They're looking at reducing CC across the board. Wonderful. He even said, he goes, look, we may take McCree's stun away. And Doomfist. And if we take all these stuns away, he's like, we're going to compensate him for something. And this is where people are like, oh my god, the Tracer's going to be blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, he actually said after that, he goes, but these mobile heroes, Doomfist, Tracer, Genji, Hammond, he specifically calls out these 4 heroes. He goes, we'll have to change them to balance them again. So, yeah, like, and this is where, and I got banned from Flat. I don't know who he is, but he was very upset. I was like, dude, you're just being super negative and you're trying to find any reason to be upset. He banned me from his chat. He's like, they're never going to be able to balance the whole game. Yes. Yes, they will. That's the whole fucking point of it not being a patch and it being an entire new game. It's so they can do everything. And if people are like, but they didn't do it then, like we saw the games they played, they sucked. Cool. Game's not going to be released till 2022. We probably have a year. Let's be realistic. It's probably going to come out Q1, Q2 of 2022. Of balancing. Right now, broad strokes. Think broad strokes. It's really hard for me to convey this to people because I work in IT. And if I'm trying to tell an executive of something, I don't go, oh, but then the Tracer, who has 120 damage, does this move and this move and this move. I don't do fucking details like that. I'm like, look, man, broad strokes. This is what this thing does. Isn't that cool? And they're like, that's fucking cool. Make it happen. That's what today's stream was all about. And I don't know how to really convey that in a meaningful way to everyone out there. Because in my head, like, I'm like, oh, high level. Okay, get it. And I kind of move on with life. And it's so inherent to what I do and what I've experienced in life that it's actually tough for me to kind of describe it to you guys. So if CC's getting lowered, and people are like, well, what would you do to McCree if he didn't have a stun? And this is where also Flet said, he goes, well, McCree is his stun. That's what defines the hero. No, guys, no. This is why you don't listen to pros or anyone like that. He also said, hey, what if you got Resurrection away from Mercy? That wouldn't be the... You wouldn't play that hero. That hero's design is gone. Mercy is an evasive healer. You would have to remove evasive or healer for her not to be who she is. McCree, mid-range consistency. Short range, also consistent. That is what McCree's about. He's about just solid damage all the time, except long range. For this consistency and his burst damage that he has, what doesn't he get? He gets lack of mobility. McCree doesn't need a stun to be McCree. But people are like, but what could you do with McCree then if he doesn't get a stun? How about this? How about this, guys? All stuns, set momentum to 0. No movement abilities for 2 seconds. I have fixed all stuns in the game. They basically do what they do right now, but without the stunning. You'd still be able to fight back. You wouldn't be able to blink. You wouldn't be able to use recall. I think Concussive Mine is in there, maybe? I don't know how that's, like, flagged. But, like, Hammond wouldn't be able to roll, stuff like that. And since momentum hits to 0, they would stop. But they could still control and shoot. A Junkrat Trap, yeah, basically it would act like a Junkrat Trap for a second. A mini hack? No. So people could still use abilities. It's just movement abilities, like when Trap disables it. So it's like, alright, cool. Then McCree can kind of stop the mobile heroes. And it doesn't feel overwhelming against, like, everyone else. Like, McCree just flashes above a shield and then fan the hammer and kill someone. Yeah, so I mean, that's what you can do with stuns. The cool thing is because there's one tank hero, you can move control from all these other fucking heroes, where people can go, oh, let's pick 30 different heroes, and they all have stuns, and we just stun you to death. They move them to tanks. You can only pick one tank. You can't go Brig, May, McCree, Hog. I'm trying to think of all the stuns in the game. Sigma, whatever. You move all of the stuns over to the tank, and now, remember how I said, oh, tanks need something to be intimidating and provide a threat. Well, now they have stuns. And if each hero has a stun, tanks are a lot more intimidating now. They can fuck you up. Also, that means we don't have to buff their damage to extreme amounts where they just start wiping people out, right? It's not going to be like Reaper with a shotgun where he just gets really close to you and he has like a shotgun melee that just kills everyone. They can be a threat with less damage if they have stuns. And there's one in the game. I really like that. That sounds a lot nicer. More important, I talked about map positioning in the flank. Next point, less teamwork, good or bad. So that's, again, I think what we can all take around this, or take away from this, is I think you're going to find out if people really like the teamwork in Overwatch or they didn't. I think the teamwork, it's too teamwork dependent. And you can see recently with the hero design that they're moving away from teamwork on heroes. I think they even stated it, where there was a developer and he goes, it's actually been tough for our team to really start designing things to be less teamwork based and more individual based. And that's the direction they want to go with, which I agree with. Now, you may not agree with it, and that's a point of contention. That's great. But just understand, don't think of it as like, 5v5 sucks, it's stupid, blah, 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 blah. Just be like, look, guys, 5v5 kind of takes away some teamwork, and I really appreciated that teamwork aspect. It's quite literally taking a player away, so there's going to be less teamwork. So we'll see about that. My next point, more space, less chance to run into a tank. Okay, yeah, so this kind of went with map design and all of that. With more space on the map, I'll just say this, tanks are overpowered currently in Overwatch. And I said it before, and I'll say it again, I'll keep saying it. If I turn the corner and there's a tank there, 80-90% of the time, I'm dead, and the tank has easier execution, and as a DPS player, it's a harder execution. Doesn't matter what hero it is. If it's melee, I turn around the corner, boop, run right into a tank. 90% of the time, I'm going to lose, and there's nothing I can do about it, and ease of execution is on the tank side. With only one tank, a lot less chance of that happening, and if it does happen, 1, DPS heroes have movement boost, I could maybe run away, and 2, tank's not on the main, meaning my team has an advantage while I deal with this guy. I'll probably die, but if I stall, my team can take an advantage. Yeah. Also, and this is the big thing, we've talked about it, overall, less damage. So everyone's going to survive more, not just tanks. Everyone's going to survive more. So games should feel a lot better. I thought I wrote a blog post on this, or I did a video on this before. I was searching for it frantically. I never did, and I was really confused. And I remember, I talked about it during the BlizzCon trailer. And back then, I was like, 5v5 actually fixes a lot of Overwatch's issues. And I think it's the right direction to go. Now, will there be other issues that come up? Yes. Yes. But, and I'll say this because I know I have a much younger audience. Actually, no, I have a young audience, but I also have an old audience. If you're ever going to take a risk in life, like starting your own business, or doing something like that, opening up a restaurant, etc., etc., if you worry about the details, you'll never get anywhere. Ever. Yeah, you won't ever be able to be successful. The reason for that is that you can never know all the details, and when you do something massive like that, you have to trust yourself that you'll figure out the small details when that time comes. Just worry about the big overarching things that you have to get done. And now this is like CEO type thinking, executive level type thinking. This is how you have to think when you're going to start something massive like this. That is what Overwatch 2 is currently, and that is what we saw today. So don't take it for fact. Don't take it as the gospel. Just understand what they showed us today was very broad strokes. All of the little details were like, well, hit scan's going to be overpowered. How about this? Hit scan, headshot, 1.5 times damage across the board. Widow, Hanzo, doesn't matter, 1.5 times damage. All of a sudden, I've fixed, I'm not going to say well, but I've fixed the hit scan problem. And that's the big issue. I lost my train of thought. Oh, sorry, that's the big issue. It's because people are looking at the really small details like hit scan. And this is the big thing. People are like, what about Widow? There's one less shield. She's going to dominate everyone. And I'll say, as a Junkrat player, Widow already dominates everyone right now. A good Widow, an Overwatch League Widow in one of my games, my team's fucked. So I don't see a big difference between Widow fucking someone with one tank and Widow fucking someone with two tanks. Doesn't matter to me. Hitscan right now is already broken as shit. Projectile takes a backseat in everything to fucking to Hitscan. But here's the deal. If they say it's true, and I called this out during the BlizzCon deal, I noticed at BlizzCon, I was like, these maps are flanky. Every new map they showed us, I was like, these maps are really closed in and flanky. There's a lot of ways to go around. I think they're going to use map design to deal with hitscan. In every map we saw today, there were flanks on flanks. Every single time. There was corridors, there was sneaky stuff. And in the Junkrat Discord, the Junkrat Council of high ELO Junkrats, they're just like, Junkrats, they actually said this. They go, guys, Junkrat's done for. You have to play Assassin Junkrat or you can't play the game. And the big thing was that they're like, there's no choke points anymore. How can we play the game? Canoodle says the what? Yeah, no, there's a high ELO Junkrat Discord. Basically, Junkrats 4.2 and above, that's who we got. Everyone was worried that, like, without a choke point, Junkrat's going to suck. And I was like, no, guys, this is going to be amazing. Instead of playing on the main path with Junkrat and shooting at a choke point, you're going to... Okay, this is super biased. It's going to be amazing because Junkrat's going to be how I play. There's just... Guys, the whole thing is fucking... Every map is corridors and flanks everywhere. And twisty-turny on the side. That's what Junkrat excels at. He excels at, like, going from high ground to low ground or low ground to high ground quickly. in kind of like a very awkward manner, enclosed in areas. So instead of saying, oh, hit scans are going to be way too strong because there's all this open area, which there isn't. Now, there was on that one Monte Carlo map, but there were side paths, there was ways to get around that. As a Junkrat player, as any close range player, you're going to use the flanks constantly. That's what you're going to do. And I think that's, as we've discussed before, is the big thing about all of this is that flanking is a lot more viable now. Map design really matters. So all the new maps going forward, I'm not too worried about Widow. She's going to be good, as always. But there's going to be a lot of flanks. You're going to be able to close the distance and do a lot more like that. Also, they also said, they go, oh, because there's only one tank, we're adding more cover to any of our new maps. So if you look at the new maps, there's constant cover everywhere. I'm not too worried about hit scan. Now, someone mentioned, and Doctor, you just mentioned it again, someone on the stream mentioned this, and they go, alright, that's good, what about old maps? Like, what about Rialto or Havana with one tank? And I'm like, okay, that's a fucking question. It's a double-sided sword. You have less tanks to defend against hit scan. That is correct. But I can flank now, and I have a very low chance of hitting or dealing with a tank. Even on Havana, am I thinking the right one? Yeah, Havana point 1. If I can get to the far right flank on attack, and I can go up the far right flank side, and then hop up there, that's perfect. I can start dealing with the hit scan from there. I can sneak around. And then I can own that right side. Right now, if I do that, the second tank just comes up and fucks me. I'm dead. There's very little I can do solo like that. But now, if the tank from the main goes to the side, all of a sudden, hey, their Widow that you're concerned about is now open to damage. Oh, their entire team open to damage because their one tank decided to go for me. And then with the extra movement speed, I pissed the fuck off. And then the tank got nothing. I lived. The whole main route's open for my team, and that opens up a thing there. So, because I'm going to not deal with a tank more often than not, I actually really see this as an advantage, even on old maps. I still think a talented Widow is going to fuck an entire team in 5v5. That being said, 6v6 doesn't fucking change a thing. And if you have a dive comp, or whatever dive may look like in the future, Winston, right, really good. If he jumps on a Widow, now Widow kind of has to, there's like a skill shot at the end. He'll deal damage to the Widow runs away. If he can get a right click off, or that ranged attack, maybe he kills her now. So by tanks getting stronger, they can deal with these problems a lot easier. And I think it's going to be okay. Now, at the Overwatch League level, maybe not. But for 95% of the community, I think it'll be fine. And even Widow, like, she is a little bit worse in the lower ranks, and this may make her a little better, that's fine. That's cool. It opens up that option to lower skilled players playing Widow. I see no problem with that. In fact, I think Junkrat's played more at the lower SR levels. Like, he's one of the most played heroes. So maybe now at lower ranks, it's actually going to be better for them. They're going to see less Junkrat, and they're going to see more Widow or more hit scan. Sure, that's great. Now they have the option of playing Junkrat or Widow instead of saying, oh, Junkrat's overpowered at low SRs. That's good. We're allowing more people to do more things. Except at the highest level, which is where everyone's fucking head is at. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Everyone's like, what about Overwatch League? What about Overwatch League? Fuck Overwatch League. Overwatch wasn't meant to be a competitive game. It was forced to be competitive. That's why it's kind of shit as a competitive game. Which, segue, bam, 1 or 2 less players per map. Overwatch is the worst esport to watch ever created. I can't think of a shittier game to watch. I love Overwatch. I love tactics. I love fast-paced games. You would say, Overwatch meant for you. You should love Overwatch League. It is the shittiest thing to watch. It's so bad. it comes down to alts, and alts are really boring to me. There's very little individual skill, and even then when it does, it's just hit scan, which I'll just say it, hit scan's easier than projectile. It's more consistent, it's just more damaging, it's just more everything. And so it's like, alright, so some guy's just staying back halfway across the map, has a shield, like, his team has 2 shields up, the Widow's clicking heads. Wow, this is amazing. Like, it's really boring. So, 2 less people, a lot less shit. Also with less shit, I've been meaning... There's a blog post I wanted to post, like, 3 years ago. It's when, I think it's right when Baptiste came out. And people were complaining about too many deployables. Because there's, like, screenshots of, like, a sim wall, an Orisa wall, an Orisa wall, 2 Sigmas with their shields out in front. One team had a Bob. Both immortality fields were out. And I think, like, I don't know if this is correct, but I think there are Moiras doing the old alt for visibility issues. And everyone's like, what the fuck's this game about? When you have more heroes, and this actually, having less heroes in the game enables this, is that deployables are really good for game design. To a point. Because a deployable says, alright, this hero has less advantage here, like on the main hero, and it has this little thing that does a side thing. And the side thing is more automatic, it provides consistency. Also, it doesn't move, therefore it's really visible and visceral, and I can see it, and I can deal with it, and then I can go for the main hero. It's really good for, like, tactile feedback and just understanding of the game. Right? It's like, you see a Torb sentry, and you're like, alright, Torb's a little worse as a hero, but he has a sentry gun. So that sentry gun just sits there and it does a thing. The problem is when you have 6 people with 6 deployables on both sides, and there's so much clutter. It really gets to be an issue. So by having less heroes overall, we may see more heroes with some type of deployable. Which is cool. I think we were actually at the max right now. So that could happen. How about 4x4, 4v4, and get rid of one of the supports? At that point, no. I like having one tank because it really... Tank's the most powerful role in Overwatch. All metas are dictated by tanks. And now that you have one, wherever you put that one tank really dictates your strategy. And not to the point... it's not like you can only do one thing with a tank. It's like, oh, I have one tank, I can do like 6 different things with them. But each of those one things, it opens up a whole new option for the enemy team because there isn't a tank to save my ass from those options that I've opened. Now if the tank goes left, right is very weak. If the tank goes center, then you're open to both flanks slightly, right? Like, it's really interesting. I think one tank really makes an interesting pivot point for the entire game, for tactics, for strategy, and just for the general flow of the game. Yeah. I think that's really all of my thoughts on the 5v5. Oh, there's one other thing. And this is by far, and I tweeted about it, the stupidest complaint I've heard of. And I'm sorry if I come off as pompous or whatever. People are like, what about the Overwatch League players that are going to get cut because of this? All the off-tanks are a loss. Like, these people dedicated years of their lives to this, and now they're fired. Welcome to the real fucking world, bitch. Every day I go to work, I have to learn something new, and I have to keep on putting value into myself. Because if I don't, I get fired. Every job in the world does this. If you were, if you're an Overwatch League player and you only played off-tank, maybe you should have practiced main tank as well. Maybe a little bit. Diversify your skill set. I've seen companies get bought and like 200 people lose their job. I've seen layoffs and like fucking 1,200 people lost their job. Like, technology advancements. Guys, I'm from Detroit. Half of my fucking family worked the line in some of the factories out there. In fact, my uncle, I think, he had to tell the programmers how he did his job on the line so they could make robots to replace him. Like, that's life. And I'm sorry, Overwatch League isn't a super stable place. It's actually highly volatile, and this is one of the reasons for that. Yeah. So, I think that's just a stupid argument to make. Also, I am a gaming purist, as most of you guys know, which means I want to do whatever is best for the game, and that's it. And if you're like, I'll lose my job if the game gets better, you lose your job. If someone says, and this is what they always do, because they think I'm coming from a Junkrat perspective and not a game designer perspective, they're like, what if you get rid of Junkrat? What are you going to do then? I'd say, if Junkrat really stopped Overwatch from being the best game possible, get rid of him. That's all there is to it. I want the game to be the best game it can be, and at any cost. Fuck the Overwatch League players. Fuck design. Fuck the off-tank players. Fuck me even. Like, fuck the Junkrat players. Whatever it takes for the game to be the greatest game it can be. That's what I want for the game. So, overall, everyone's overreacting. Guys, don't take what you saw today as the game going forward. Tanks will get changed. They will get buffed. Other heroes will get nerfed. They may get buffed. We have a year to design this and work it out. What we saw today were big, overarching ideas, and this is going to be really good. I think Overwatch is going to be insanely much... It's going to be so much better. The biggest issue we actually had today, no experimental card. That's actually what I'm most disappointed about. Bastion main, it seems strange to see them reworking May, but not talking about Bastion more than a second. So, during today's broadcast, Jeff said, he goes, look, some heroes haven't been reworked enough, and to the point where we didn't think it wasn't possible to show them today. Orisa was one of those. I think Bastion was another one. I think Bastion may be a little different than you think, but he probably has the same... So, Bastion, if anyone's to say, oh, but if you do X, it's going to make Bastion too much different. The archetype of Bastion is the antithesis, like the anti-movement. It's anti-tracer. You have this in every game. Hey, let's have a very mobile hero that's very weak, very, I don't want to say skill-based, but like very based on their mobility and dodging damage. On the complete opposite spectrum, what if we have a hero with no mobility? How can we design that? That's really where Tracer and Bastion sit. They're actually opposites. This archetype will always exist. You will always have Bastion in some form of a man with no mobility that deals shit ton of DPS. They may tweak him a little bit to be a little different, but overall, that concept of Bastion is what makes Bastion Bastion. So, as long as you're comfortable with that, you'll probably get something from Overwatch 2. This is more so for Blizzard than you, Chro. Any idea why all the Latin American maps are all escort? I don't fucking know. Because they're done with 2CP? I think escort is, Here's the thing. I don't think I like escort or payload more than other maps. I just like good map design. And a lot of the good map design is a hybrid for me. King's Row, best map in the game. Eichenwald, very good map. Numbani, not a terrible map. Point 2 is a little... Okay, guys. If you want to know what Overwatch 2 is going to be like, Numbani Point 2. It's a map with flanks and flanks in the flanks. I really feel that's what a lot of Overwatch 2 is going to feel. I mentioned this earlier, but I think 2CP would work in 5v5. Well, I don't like 2CP. Trenches. Everyone shoots at each other. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Like, I hate that. If you make 2CP and you make 5 or 6 entrances to each point, okay. But But I just want to see 2CP go away. RDD said they're brave to go through this massive change. This is kind of a change I wanted to see more often. Could be good, but I'm a bit concerned because Blizzard's past with balancing. Okay. Blizzard is shit at fine-tuning their game. Cool. It's a new game. Blizzard's really good at releasing a new game and making it ship-shape for that. That would be my positive spin, if you will, on that. Canuta says, thank you for calming my nerves. Yeah, no problem, man. Everyone's overreacting about this shit, and I don't get it. I think this is going to be great for the game. I really do. I don't see any downside to 5v5. And I have not heard anyone's opinion that's anti-5v5 that made any sense or was like rooted in logic. Like something that they really had a good grasp on. Like for me, it's all, I don't want to say it's all facts, but it's like, look, less heroes, less damage. Great. More of the map you can walk around with. Great. Tanks are overpowered. Less tanks. So now you can actually walk around the map and not be afraid. Also, where the tank is matters. Maps are more important now. The flanks matter. Health pack dominance now matters. Supports can deal damage or heal. Supports have more options. DPS have more options. Tanks, while they were strong before, are now even stronger. Also, they're going to get CC and remove CC from the rest of the heroes in the game. I don't know what the negative part of 5v5 is. Will Q times go down? Lucy, Q times are going to plummet. They are going to plummet. That is the biggest issue with it. With Overwatch right now. And it is going to plummet. I'm talking, I'll probably have to queue. No priority pass. 3 minutes maybe if this went live. Less technical stress on the servers? I guess. Just as you said. Yeah, I guess. But couldn't we have Overwatch 1 on the side with the good old tank duels? Okay. So, this is the one, I will say, logical thing that I have heard from...
Thank you.
John Smith. With a big old 50 fucking dollars. John? Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. $50. Holy shit, I haven't had a fucking donation like that in a very long time. It didn't update down there. Hold on, let me launch Streamlabs so you get your name down there. Where's my Streamlabs? Where's my Streamlabs? There it is. So the one thing that people have stated is that is there a way to keep old Overwatch? Because this is a fucking thing. Guys, this is a big... I guess you could call it a pivot. Like, this is a solid change of direction. People are worried about, there's no way to go back to the old Overwatch. What do we do if it's wrong? Oh my god. And it kind of... That mentality to me is like, well, you could say that about any big change for any game or any person's life ever. My girlfriend moved out with... She left everything behind to be with me. Can you fucking believe it? For this. Look at this. Fucking... How dumb is she? This? She left everything for this?
Wow!
Well, look, I'm not saying...
What are you... Wow!
But look at me!
Only I can insult you!
No, but
you
it's
don't
like...
get to insult you! You stop that right now!
She has ulterior motives? I know, she beats me. She found someone she could fist... Do you or do you not beat me?
I do not beat you at all. Show the bruises. Show the bruises.
She's very tactical. She only punches me in my dick, so I can't show it. Oh, titties. Titties, baby.
There's nothing there.
Just in case. Look, everyone hates me. They're looking for a reason to report my screen.
Alright, why are you yelling about me? I was not paying it.
Oh, you weren't paying attention?
At all. I just heard, like...
I said you left everything for
yeah.
me. And I'm saying, like, that was a big risk for her. I was trying to show people the amount of risk. And, like, everyone's like, but what if we can't go back? She had the same thought. She's like...
Oh, I see.
She's like, yeah, basically, people want old Overwatch as an option. With Overwatch 2 being there.
Oh, my pants are falling off.
Oh my god, her pants are falling off.
I'm not ready to be on stream right now. Sorry.
Just not presentable today.
My streams only this.
Yeah, she only streams from here up.
Sees the rest.
It's like an interview where people wear tux, or like the suits, but with no pants. So, I understand everyone's hesitation for making a big jump like this. But you have to trust Blizzard. And I understand, with Blizzard's history, you're just like, yeah, fuck that. Like, oh man, I made this joke at work. I'll just say it. Fucking A. We were talking about our servers at work, and I'm like, that server's so damaged, even I wouldn't date it. And I kind of feel like that about Blizzard. And when people are like, but look at, but trust in Blizzard. I'm like, guys, Blizzard's so fucking damaged, I wouldn't date it. Like, no. I'm not ready for that type of baggage. Alright? That is U-Haul type levels of baggage. Fucking dating Blizzard. Blizzard hasn't earned your trust in a long time. Paragon, whatever your name is. I'm right there with you, man. I'm not particularly fond of Blizzard right now. Or for like the past 7 years. Overwatch, overall, massive success. Great game. It is one of their most successful games ever. And it created an IP that is basically going to be untouched in the future. Diablo 3, shit show. Hearthstone, not a fan. I almost called it Heroes of New Earth, but it's Heroes of the Storm. Not good. StarCraft 2. I am with you when I'm like, I don't know about this. It's going to be risky. But with this one, with Overwatch, I trust them on this. Because it's a new... I'm treating this as a new game. So don't think of it as a balance patch. This is a new game. So I'm like, oh. They can do a new game. They're really bad at patching and keeping up to date. That's where Blizzard really falls short. But we're just going to have to take that leap, that risk of maybe this is bad, and we'll have to really figure out what to do with the game. But, and this was on Flat stream. He's like, I don't think they'll be able to balance every hero. And then he's like, what they need to do is balance tanks and everyone now. And I'm like, wait a second. You just said you don't trust Blizzard balancing all the heroes in Overwatch 2, but you want them to balance everything now. And I'm just like, that's the same fucking statement twice, except there's more. Like, it's harder to balance Overwatch now than it is in the new one. Because one tank is easier to balance than two. Yeah, guys, we're going fucking both feet in the deep end with this one. And that's fine. I love that. I think gaming should be experimental. I think it should try a lot of crazy stuff. It's why I really love the whole indie movement with games right now, because you're like, oh man, I had that idea before, and you play the game and you're like, I'm glad I didn't invest time in that idea, because that idea sucked. But it should be experimental. It should be allowed to do a lot of crazy things, and this is all a movement in that direction. As I stated earlier in the stream, I wish Blizzard would release patches like what Overwatch 2 is, like every 4 or 5 months. Like, just be like, we don't like armor anymore, so we're going to redo any hero that attacks quickly, and we're going to redo tanks. Right? Like, I would love to see that like once a year, and then like decent patches where they touch every single hero every 4 or 5 months. But yeah. Did they mention a movement speed increase for everyone? No, there's a movement speed. It's a little bit faster. I think it's like 20% faster for DPS. They didn't say the percentage, but it looks like 20% faster. DPS heroes will be moving. All support heroes now heal at like 1 or 2 hit point a second after 5 or 10 seconds. Mercy and Zen retain their healing passives now with shields and just regen, so they get like very fast regen. Tanks, with a tank, it just knockback reduction. I'm a little worried about healers getting peel without another tank to help with that. Maybe supports will have to deal damage. You don't have to worry about healing your tank as much, because there's only one tank. And maybe DPS heroes are now the peel. Mei will deal damage, yes. So anyone that didn't know, Mei does not freeze anyone anymore. But, and this is purely what I could count in my head, he's like, Mei's damage is a lot stronger. And in the video, Mei kills a soldier, a full health soldier, and it looked like 3 seconds or a little bit less. So I'm assuming Mei does 70 damage a second with her primary fire. Which means if you're cleaving people, like if you're hitting 3 people, you're dealing 210 damage a second. So it would be big. It would be something decent. The main thing just seems weird. Like, why wait 5 years to make that change? I think they're just finally realizing Overwatch 2 is a pivot towards FPS. That's the best way I can put it. Overwatch has always leaned... It tries to be the middle of abilities and mechanics and MOBA and FPS, yada yada yada. This is a strong pull for FPS mechanics and FPS design. Which means low stuns, low control, more shooty. We can do an Overwatch 2 alpha in the workshop. It is possible, I think. I don't know about that. Yeah, so Mei's still slow, she just never freezes. That's all. I don't know. I think the game is going to be a lot more chaotic, which is great. It's going to be a lot more people moving, people trying to get fire, like damage from specific angles. I think it's going to be really fun. Did they say only tanks have CC? They talked about control for like a minute or two, and they're like, we've thought about making only tanks have CC. We thought about taking it away from all heroes, like, and he just goes Doomfist, McCree, all this stuff, and he's like, we'll have to compensate them by taking their stuns away. So like, they'll take stuns away, but maybe they get damage or health, or maybe they get new abilities. And they're, and at the same time, the mobile heroes, and he specifically calls out Tracer, Doomfist, Genji, Hammond. He's like, we're gonna have to change them because we can definitely see without these anti-movement abilities that they're going to be a problem. So that's. I think that's going to be the talk. Does anyone have any questions? This is, guys, it's going to be. I really feel like it's going to be all positive. I really do. If anyone, and here's the thing, you guys watch Overwatch players probably more than me. If you see some, if anyone sees any sort of argument against 5v5, I really want to hear it. What about lore? What do you think will happen next? I have no idea. I'm not a lore type guy. Do you think we might see more of these reveals and info drops in the future? I don't know. The community has act like a bunch of little babies, and they're a bunch of fucking whiners, in my opinion. And if I was Blizzard, I would be like, alright, you bunch of fucking pissy little bitches. We're not gonna tell you shit. without knowing how they'll change the character balance because of it. Who knows? Exactly. We don't know how they're going to balance heroes, guys, but we know their general broad strokes they're going for, and it's in the right direction, in my opinion. So do you think these developing Overwatch 2 features started before or after Jeff left? Oh, way before. Oh my god. Yeah, no. There's... It seems like... And I don't like talking about Jeff just because it's all speculation on our part. It seemed like Jeff left abruptly. In which case you're like, oh, did they make all these changes in the last 2 or 3 weeks? No. Guys, I will tell you from experience, large companies move very slow. Very slow. This type of change probably started 5-6 months ago. So no, I don't think this had anything to do with Jeff promoting or not promoting it. I think most game communities are scared with fundamental changes. I love fundamental changes. That's what I'm all about.